course, with the Vladimir Braum, and Gvuardya is on Nightfall. This is going to be a pretty tricky one. The
Yeah.
potential for Nightfall to get a very aggressive start against this list is something to be stated, of course. But if we get the curve into Scar Grounds, into a defensive mid game, it's going to be very difficult for like a Nocturne combo to properly swing through against targets with such massive attack power. So Gvuardya, looking at this matchup, is going to try to be as aggressive as possible early. One of the biggest weaknesses of Vlad Braum, yes, is that it can't deal with elusives. So cards like Shadestalker or the Flight will actually do a considerable amount here.
Yeah, definitely. They do have a lot of early removal as well with all the 1 damage pokes and avalanche. So Gvuardya has to play it a little bit patient in order to actually establish this board without overcommitting and getting it all wiped. He has to wait for the right opportunity and then strike. But if he waits too long, Vlad Braum can absolutely just create a board presence that's impossible to deal with.
The Scar Grounds missing here on turn 3. Very unfortunate. It's similar to Grand Plaza, where you want to play it on curve. You need to get it in as early as possible and start getting value from that effect. It's so important to the overall win condition of this list. At the very least, nothing too aggressive coming out of Gvuardya's side yet, and we do have Braum into Tarkaz on curve. So hopefully, top deck Scar Grounds here within the next couple rounds could really put FreshLobster in a fantastic position.
Yeah, you're right. It does hurt to not have Scar Grounds here with this deck because you are looking at a decent curve with Tarkaz, Braum, even the Wild Claw as well. But the thing is, he does have some mana that he can save now. So he will have a little bit of backup mana so he can have some tricks. He does have 3 Sisters and Avalanche, possibly be able to play a unit and one of those to do something. But it is harder and harder to play Scar Grounds as the game goes on, just because you actually need to play some of your units on curve to be able to withstand certain threats. But that being said, Gvuardya is actually playing a Solari Priestess here, so he's not putting a ton of pressure on at the moment. So he might have time if he does find Scar Grounds to get it out.
Yeah, after I saw that Solari Priestess, I had to pull out my monocle and take a closer look at this deck list. What is this heretical inclusion? Looking at Gvuardya's list, it's actually a Veiled Temple, very invoke heavy variant. He's taking a page out of the game plan of these mono Targon atrocity builds, but combining it with Nightfall to make it have it to give it a little bit more tempo. This variant, according to the deck list here, is actually Diana Aphelios. I wrongfully assumed that it was Diana Nocturne. So this one is going to be much more value oriented, and we saw in previous matches where with the invokes, if you get enough chump blockers, these decks don't become that big of a threat to you. When you look at FreshLobster's list here, helpfully in the deck tracker on the left side, the only overwhelm is Alpha Wildclaw. Everything else is just big stats.
Yeah, exactly. And if he can withhold his board, like you said, now that we know this is Diana Aphelios with a lot more invoke, it could become another big stat versus big stat game if it gets to the mid to late game, right? You're going to have giant Celestials versus some Trolls and giant bodies on the side of FreshLobster.
And this further accentuates the weakness against elusives for Vladimir Braum. If you get something like the Great Beyond or the Immortal Fire down. We do see 1 copy of 3 Sisters in hand, so that could be a clutch Entomb like we saw previously, or a clutch Flash Freeze to stop a big swing like that. But at the very least, because this isn't a standard Nightfall list, there's going to be less presence of fearsome units, so it's going to make the early game with Crimson Disciple into Braum a lot safer. So both sides are actually benefiting slightly from this matchup in odd ways. So here comes Aphelios.
Yeah, so we haven't seen a whole lot of Aphelios in general lately on ladder if you've been playing, and we haven't seen any today in the tournament. So it should be interesting to see. We see that he does have 1 less health than normal, but looks like he got hit with a Written in the Stars, so he's a 5/4 coming down. That is one way to get him some extra health, since now Moon Temple and his own nerf are even here.
And Gvuardya now, decides on... It's a tough one, because Gravitum's probably always going to be useful in this matchup. If you want to go for wider blockers, try to get a stronger mid-game advantage, you could maybe go for Crescendum to pull the Sky Shadows, get a small mana refund. I think it depends on Veiled Temple. FreshLobster missing out on the Scargrounds is a huge blow to the value and threat that he can generate on his side, and Gvuardya is in a similar position when it comes to the Veiled Temple.
Yeah, both players taking it pretty slow. We don't see a Scargrounds on FreshLobster side still, so he needs to kind of establish his board. But Gvuardya is not horrible with this plan, just to allow himself to just kind of gain a little board traction, get the weapons going, get the invoke going, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, just Targaz on top of this is acceptable. You can swing in. The Crimson Disciple takes a little bit of damage to ping the Nexus. You get the guaranteed Mighty Pour off of Braum, of course. And maybe you just pull the Solari Priestess to make sure he stays safe against Pale Cascade. A committal here also is just asking the question, do you have Gravitum? Or if Gvuardya even wants to make that play, here comes the Moon Weapon. It's got to be. Crescendum was the choice. So the way this deck is constructed, it's guaranteed to pull Sky Shadows here, which is a 1 HP unit, which cannot block Tarkaz. So now that we know that Tarkaz isn't being stunned, it's just a matter of what do I attack with? What's getting pulled? Having 3 spell mana open means that Gvuardya does need to be wary of combat tricks like Troll Chant.
Yeah, absolutely. And FreshLobster doesn't really have any tricks in hand. Obviously, he has the 3 Sisters, but can't do anything with that with 3 mana, so...
And I think this is a great attack for FreshLobster here. It's just a matter of how deep you want to go. And because the Tarkaz now alongside the Braum, you just pull the 1 HP unit into play, and it would theoretically die to Tarkaz's effect. However, with Pale Cascade, it would survive and then be able to swing up and destroy the Braum.
Do have to interrupt real quick, but we have a score report from the bottom of the bracket. Martin Carton takes the win 2-0 over Broken Ball. We knew those matches would go quick. Broken Ball is bringing 3 aggro decks to the lineup, so they're pretty much win or lose pretty quickly. So those matches are already done. So the winner of this game here will be playing Martin Carton in the finals.
Ooh, Martin Carton, the dark horse, taking down a favorite, advancing up through the bracket, and now there's even more on the line. Because depending on, what your decks and what your lineup are, maybe you're saying, oh, my lineup's actually really good against Martin Carton, so now it's like, if I can win this, I have a smoother sailing to get that top prize. So right. FreshLobster and Gvuardya now still duking it out, and just chump blocks a little bit with one of the Sky Shadows, of course, takes a little bit of damage, and no Veiled Temple from Gvuardya just yet.
Not yet. See the second Moon Weapon coming down now.
It's honestly a huge boon for Gvuardya from this position that there is no Scargrounds yet, because the Calibrum becomes a lot worse. Things like Unspeakable Horror become a lot worse. And just like all of the chump blockers that an Invoke heavy list like this can generate, you're just feeding into your opponent's win condition. And then once you run out of resources, they're just going to beat you down. Can Diana take the risk of even attacking here?
Yeah, with that much mana up, it is risky for sure. Gvuardya still has 6 mana himself, so he could establish something else first if he feels like it, but there's not a great attack here into much of this. I mean, he can obviously pull the 2-2 and just go for the kill there. There's a lot of answers that Vlad Braum runs to something like that.
Honestly, I think what you need to do is maybe just survive and try to get Again, go just default back to the standard Targon. Even if your early mid game synergies and strategies don't come through, if you can drag the game out long enough, you can just try to pull something just with your pure resource generation and card advantage you naturally build, especially alongside Aphelios. Gravitum being phased into the hand now is going to make it very awkward for FreshLobster to develop. We can see, of course, that he has mostly just units and no combat tricks, and this is exactly what Gvuardya needs for the hand quality to be a little bit lower here and have less reactivity, because FreshLobster, in turn, is going to take less daring attacks without the proper backup.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I do think the plan kind of needs the shift now. FreshLobster's board is becoming scarier and scarier. Once Vlad is going to level this game very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, he has Braum established and a Tarkaz already. So he kind of just needs to withstand this and then get to late game like Targon likes to be in a lot of positions, and then hopefully can invoke his way out of the situation. But looks like he's playing Gravitum now, which could enhance his attacking ability here. It's an interesting decision because Gravitum's obviously super solid on defense. Also looks like Aphelios is almost leveled from this. It should
Yeah,
be the
so
third of 4 moon weapons.
yeah, so the Gravitum being put here does definitely indicate that Gvuardya is looking to attack. Probably Diana just trying to pull that 2/2. Maybe has a read now that there isn't the transfusion of the Troll Chant to worry about. At the very least, even if you aren't attacking this turn, you just get the guaranteed stun on the Tarkaz against the open attack, right? With Vlad and Tarkaz and Braum, the open attack is looking pretty sweet here. So just a preemptive Gravitum to take away that activator.
Yeah, just looking for next turn to stop. And really the only thing that FreshLobster can do is, I mean, he could avalanche his own board. It's not the worst call. Would get rid of 2 units here. And obviously the 3 Sisters could only be used for flash freeze right now. And most likely he's going to hold on to that 3 Sisters until the absolute correct moment, because he does not want to use that instantly. That's a really good counter to things like Atrocity and the massive elusive units you were talking about earlier.
Now that the Gravitum has been used, FreshLobster is a bit freer to develop the board at the very least. I'm wondering if one of these Wild Claws would come down, or if he does value the second Tarkaz here. With no Scar Grounds, though, it's still just big bodies coming through for the most part. And Gvuardya, because there's no Spacey Sketcher or Zoe, which you normally see in these very invoke-heavy lists, there's going to be less access to Equinox. So the units with Overwhelm, again, these Alpha Wild Claws are going to be massive.
Yeah, that's a great point. He's got all 3 in hand, ready to attack. Yeah, we don't see Vlad Braum running out of steam all the time, and he's got plenty of it left in his hand. He's got most of his late game in his hand. I mean, the Alpha Claw is the top end of his late game, and he's seeing all 3 of them. So,
and this is what you want. When you have a board like this that's set up and can hold the fort, it gives you a lot more room to develop these larger bodies and not get punished too poorly for them. Without the Scar Grounds, though, it's still pretty rough when you are defending, but looks like he heard you telepathically. The avalanche is going to come through. It's just too good to pass up.
Yeah, you're not really sacrificing anything yourself. You're leveling Vlad from this, and you're losing a 2/2, but that's really not that huge of a deal. And you're also working toward leveling Braum, and your Tarkaz still is pretty healthy. So this is a pretty massive avalanche. I mean, he can obviously Pale Cascade to get Diana away from dying here. But other than that, I mean, this is a pretty big avalanche. It clears a lot of board space.
And looking at the developments from the last round, maybe FreshLobster does have a read to say, okay, well, whatever units you have in hand are probably expensive, don't have great stats, right? Like Sky Shadows, Duskbringer, even Solari and Lunari Priestess, right? Just a lot of 1 and 2 HP units. While this Avalanche could get some value down the road, FreshLobster just recognizing without Scar Grounds, I do need to be a little bit more proactive in taking advantage of this mid-game spike I'm experiencing right now.
Yeah. So I guess he has two options in order to keep Diana alive. One would just be using Pale Cascade to get +1/+1, but he also, now that he did just trigger Nightfall as well, he could just level her. Sorry, so he's going with actually that was a Diana, so that was Diana's champion spell. But that will put her one closer to level and give her +1/+1.
So she survives the avalanche, and then after the action goes back to Gvuardya's side, he can then play another Nightfall, maybe a Doom Beast or something, to level Diana. And then you have a
Yeah.
massive attacker on your side, something with a lot of attack to disincentivize a swing coming through. Everything that is survived right now can still trade up into Vladimir very easily. Crescendum coming off of the Aphelios 2 to actually reinforce Sky Shadow's number 3 going to be drawn here.
Yeah, unless it's in his hand, right? This will summon Sky Shadow's number 3 and should level Aphelios at the same time, right?
Yes, this is the 4th moon weapon. You're correct. I forgot about that. So then Aphelios gets that +1/+1. He's going to have quick attack, which makes it a lot easier for him to start swinging in to even out the board. And we'll see how FreshLobster responds to this. There is mana.
Yeah, Aphelios will still reduce moon weapons by 1, so they won't cost 1 like they did before, but they'll be back to costing 2, which is pretty substantial from 3. So he might be able to start spamming a solid amount of moon weapons. Cycling to get Gravitum every round will be massive against Vlad Braum, since their followers are very important.
And of course, the +1 here saves the Aphelios from a follow-up avalanche.
Yep.
And again, the option here, you can just go all in with a Wild Claw. It's not looking too good, unfortunately. Because everything that FreshLobster has is just a massive commitment for the rest of his mana. Like, thinking about maybe threatening with Fury of the North. There is maybe Entomb available. I think you could even use Entomb again as a sneaky way to get your Overwhelm to punch through, because it removes the blocker from play.
Yep.
And maybe FreshLobster again just says, maybe I don't attack this round. Just let Vladimir and Braum regenerate. Just take this as a setup turn and just try to survive beyond that. Once Aphelios is leveled up, the Gravitum basically means FreshLobster is going to be down a blocker for most of the rest of the game.
Yeah, down a blocker and attacker each round now. As long as he can cycle through it, which shouldn't be too hard.
And surprisingly, FreshLobster isn't running very low on cards.
Yeah, he still has a healthy hand. He just hasn't really seen any of his combat tricks outside of, his three sisters, which is really his only versatility right now. He doesn't have a whole lot of options besides that. He doesn't have his transfusions, his troll chance. He doesn't have anything like that to actually be able to keep him lighter, especially his ice shard. You see how many units have 1 health at the moment.
And Gvuardya cashing in Aphelios' gifts from beyond. Very confident that the one that's in play right now is going to survive, and is just pouring even more value into this. We even saw Diana's Pale Cascade being used earlier to save this Diana that's in play, and Gvuardya just saying, the board I have right now will carry. Here comes Gravitum onto the Alpha Wild Claw.
Oh, this is actually the Calibrum. So he's doing 3 damage to the Wild Claw with this to allow him to jump block with the 3/1, I suppose.
Take a little bit of damage and just guarantee a better trade for yourself. It's as good as a stun in this scenario. Yeah. Very well played. You still get to stop your opponent from attacking, but then you get another Gravitum anyway to spell a longer term advantage. Very heads up play from Gvuardya here.
And even if he doesn't attack her, he can always just, now he has that Alpha Wild Claw hooked down to 3 health. 1 more Calibrum and it's gone.
Ooh, the attack, and now you're thinking, okay, I need to attack with this Alpha Wild Claw to just get some damage through before it gets killed by Calibrum, before a silence or just another chain stun comes through and I don't get any value out of it anyway. And even if the 3/1 trades up into it, you get 6 damage, and maybe you can make something happen from that position.
It's going to be a very important turn here to attack or not. He can apply some pressure, but he does go with Vlad and just the Wild Claw. So if he wants to trade into Vlad, he's going to either need to drop Aphelios or just level Diana.
Yeah,
if he has
the
anything.
Diana's Pale Cascade from earlier did clue in FreshLobster that he probably doesn't have any better Nightfall activators. Um,
Yes,
and then
true.
going for Crescendo and bring the Sky Shadows down indicates the same thing. There wasn't like a Doom Beast or something played. So the read comes through, the calculations have been done, and Gvuardya has to block this Vladimir, has to go for the kill to get this off of the board. This is a real shame. Again, the Aphelios' moon weapon was already used, so this is a little bit of a 2-for-1, especially after Written in the Stars was used on this Aphelios. So overall, I'm not going to say that this is super good for FreshLobster, but it definitely avoids the worst case scenario.
Yes. Yeah, like you said, he didn't have a Nightfall activator to level up Diana, because that obviously would have been a better trade. Willing to sacrifice Aphelios here. I mean, I think he has to. He would have just taken too much Nexus damage if not.
Yep. So we
Already
get
did generate the Gravitum in his hand, though, so he is holding on to one Gravitum. It will just go back up to costing 3 temporarily.
And now, with Braum about to regenerate, we still have the double Alpha Wild Claw in hand, the chance to draw a Scargrounds or maybe even Whispered Words to fish deeper for the Scargrounds, and then give the board the resiliency it wants. Like if the Vladimir had gotten tough, if that Alpha Wild Claw had gotten tough, that trade is so much better in the favor. And another Vladimir off the top, FreshLobster rewarded for sacrificing that first champion.
Yeah, that's a huge top deck there. Vladimir is very important. That's like you said, the Alpha Wild Claw is the only unit with Overwhelm, but Vladimir is going to continuously ping the Nexus on every attack. So he's very important for the game plan here for FreshLobster to pull out a win.
The Fangs does get a little bit of healing, but 3 healing when you're facing down 7 or 8 damage worth of Overwhelm just isn't going to be enough. You could just develop Wild Claw here. You can develop your own Vladimir once again. The regeneration on Vladimir is so strong. Same thing like when you're facing down Garen. Having that large attack pool, something with a lot of HP that you can block, and then you can't chip away at it. You have to find some way to one-shot this massive unit, is going to be difficult for Targon to do. They need, Falling Comet at the very least.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we still see we have plenty of units on FreshLobster's hand. He's got plenty more possibilities to put out there and really put more pressure. See if Diana levels up here as well. If we can get her leveled up, if he has another Nightfall activator, which, like you said, he hasn't had one yet to actually push him there, but she could possibly get a big unit like Tarkaz out, unless FreshLobster wants to pull the trigger on that Three Sisters finally.
Yeah, the Three Sisters, I think FreshLobster is probably going to be sitting on that for quite some time, just as a way to answer Atrocity. If Gvuardya's backed into a corner, we have seen it from time to time where you can use a bunch of Nightfall activators like Pale Cascade and Unto Dusk to hyper boost Diana's attack power to go for a big swing with Moonlight Affliction, for example, where your opponent can't block, or again, that massive Atrocity that you just normally don't account for when you're playing against a deck of this nature. And so having a backup Frostbite or an Entomb is going to be massive. But
FreshLobster has offered the ability to end the round here, and he's debating on whether he wants to establish even more board for a stronger attack, or if he just wants to end the round and move on.
If you pass here, Diana stays at 1 HP. You pull her into combat with Braum, so she'll die to Tarkaz. This is, completely predicated on not having like another Pale Cascade to give her that +1.
Right.
But at the same time, an open attack of that nature isn't too powerful. There's still the Gravitum in hand, so by passing here, FreshLobster, I think, is saying, okay, I want to go for this open attack.
Yeah, it would appear that way. I mean, he gets the Diana off the board, but he looks like he's going to actually decide to build up his board a little bit more. If he does have 4 units plus Vlad, that is some Nexus damage going through.
Mm-hmm. I suppose
still,
the Gravitum can only stock one thing. If Tarkaz gets stunned, you play Vladimir, you play a Wild Claw, you play the other Tarkaz.
Right.
So overall, it's looking good. But thanks to the Bloodletter, the next unit that's played will take 1 point of damage, but then gain some attack power in exchange. And Gvuardya now is forced to maybe just develop a unit, right? Because again, the Gravitum just stops a little bit of the bleeding here. And so by developing a unit and not playing Gravitum, FreshLobster gets to further increase the threat level.
Yeah. Yeah, and Gvuardya here is just going for just playing a Solari Priestess. He'll just, it's a small 1/2 unit, but it can chump block efficiently into Vlad, into Tarkaz, into anything that doesn't have Overwhelm. And on top of that, it just keeps the hand advantage that Gvuardya already has even higher, right? He's just going to continuously have it. He's playing his small tools now, whittling down FreshLobster's tools. And as he does that, hopefully, in his mind, building up something big enough to be able to finish the game later. But this could have been a falling comet for a straight removal that there really isn't a huge answer for, other than entombing your own unit.
The Falling Comet, there was a little bit of hesitation on the pick there. So besides Falling Comet, which I would consider to be an instant pick, I'm wondering if there was something else there that was offered that Gvuardya thinks he might be able to get away with. Maybe another cheeky Written in Stars to get a powered up Aphelios. The next Aphelios that's drawn will be leveled up. And if you can pull that maneuver off, then, as we mentioned before, the subsequent chain of moon weapons can help you stifle this attack here, thanks to Calibrum and Gravitum, etc.
Yeah, that could be massive for sure. Yeah, I do wonder what that hesitation was, because like you said, the Comet would be massive here to just eliminate something right off the bat. Written in the Stars could be interesting. Could even go with the Golden Sisters just to get 2 chump blockers if he's really feeling that threatened. But at the moment, he shouldn't feel all that threatened just yet. Not for lethal, at least. He's got 3 blockers, and Vlad is there as well, but he still has Gravitum. If he really wants to cancel out the Tarkaz attack, he can do so.
Mm-hmm. Once the wide board is set up, and maybe you're worried about the overwhelm from Wildclaw, Gvuardya does have Moonlight Affliction and Hush to stop some of that damage coming through. Really only needs to worry about the direct damage from Vladimir, which is very piecemeal. If a clutch star shaping offsets a lot of that, we still have Fangs in play.
Wow, so you're right. He was worried, in fact, about that little bit of damage coming from Vlad, so he decided to just Gravitum Vlad. So obviously Vlad is not a follower, so it won't happen for 2 rounds, but this round Vlad will not be able to attack, so that will save his Nexus at least 4 damage.
FreshLobster still very hesitant about, what's going to go into combat, what's going to get pulled. Offers up the Braum here. Because if Braum goes down from this position, you aren't too upset about it. You've already got massive things that you want to play instead of Braum. Without Scargrounds, he doesn't scale as well as just playing a Wildclaw. When Braum and Scargrounds are working together, he's challenging, but he also has a lot of attack power. So we'll see if Gvuardya wants to try to sacrifice this Diana, or if he has the tools to level her up. This is tricky, right? You kind of want to get multiple reps off of the Fangs when you're attacking, but at the same time, the trades just aren't too good for you. And who knows if there's going to be some sort of combat trick here to prevent the lifesteal altogether. Gvuardya's just going to hold back and says, Targon at 5 HP, you aren't as scared as you would be when you're playing some other region combination.
No, you aren't wrong. Yeah, he definitely could have blocked here, blocked 2 damage and healed for 3, so it would have been a swing of 5, but he decides to just take it, assuming that he's going to be able to get more value from the Fangs than that. So it does kind of indicate what is his possible plan for the Fangs, and they're obviously bigger than what he had there, but it does leave FreshLobster's board pretty massive. I mean, he still has 5 units on board.
Yeah, this is the inverse of what we saw in the previous match where Gvuardya was playing Leona, where you can't develop enough threatening units to stop the Vladimir Braum. Even without Scargrounds, the deck is operated beautifully by just having more units, having direct damage, having better trades, having threats of very powerful combat tricks, and Gvuardya's list being based entirely around value and does not have the stat line quality to keep up with this beatdown.
Yeah. So he did go for Golden Sisters. Very interesting.
So opted for Golden Sisters. I'm wondering if this was offered against Falling Comet. Do I want to obliterate Vladimir? Or do I need to play one unit that gets me 2? Now there is 7 attack worth of lifesteal in play, potentially boosted further with Pale Cascade. And no late game threats coming down yet. We haven't seen Veiled Temple. We haven't seen Star Shaping yet. We're hoping for maybe another Aphelios to kind of solidify this position to get some defense built up, because when it comes to Vladimir Braum, they want you to trade. They want your board to go away and then just slowly wear you down from there.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're getting toward the late game here, where we get to see what he was invoking this whole game. Right? We see Golden Sisters, the Fangs invoked to look like this messenger, and now we'll see where that takes us, right? We get more star shapings, we get bigger units. He's playing all these Celestials. We have to remember that these Celestials that he will play later will only be bigger and bigger based on how many Celestials he's playing now.
So there is Diana now, leveled up.
Yeah.
Again, the unit in the game, in this deck that probably has the most damage output potential, can potentially take down the Wild Claw to prevent the overwhelm. You have to probably take down Vladimir here. And I'm wondering if FreshLobster will let that go through, or maybe Frostbite the Diana with this Flash Freeze. Now that enough has been done over the course of the game that you don't necessarily need to worry about getting one shot by Star Shaping into Big Celestial, maybe you do cash this in to just save your direct damage, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because Vlad is going to be, with a full board, pushing out 5 additional damage, which if you look at his Nexus, that seems pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then if not, he still has the Overwhelm unit. Is this the moment that we see the 3 sisters come out because Diana threatens? And this is the first Nightfall thing. So Diana's already at 5. She's 1 away from threatening Vlad.
A Pale Cascade would be massive. Lunari Priestess is honestly maybe a bit more frightening for FreshLobster, because this is a unit, because it's an open invoke, you have the chance to get that Falling Comet. You have a chance to also get something like Equinox or Crescent Strike. So the wide band of the really good Celestials you have to fear is increased with the Lunari Priestess now being added to the equation.
Yeah, that's a great point. You can't really plan around exactly. If it's a 3 or less card, you know exactly what you need to play around, the important ones that really screw you. But like you said, an open invoke is a lot different than that. It could be anything, really.
Fortunately for FreshLobster, the way to play around invokes is simply to open attack. And the board state right now, while not a lot of attack power across the board, you just need the bodies for Vladimir. And you get a little bit of extra damage thanks to the Crimson Disciple. So Gvuardya needs to do some work this turn to heal and to whittle away this board.
Pretty crazy thinking that the Fangs was the only unit out a second ago, but now we have a whole lot more than that on the board.
Yeah,
both boards feeling very healthy.
Yeah, a lot of chump blockers. This is what you need.
Yeah.
But the direct damage is definitely in FreshLobster's favor, thanks to the Overwhelm, thanks to the Disciple, thanks to the Vladimir. And look at this. Pulls the Disciple. Wants to avoid this direct damage coming from the Tarkaz ping. Probably has a Star Shaping in hand then to live next round against the Vladimir open attack. Because it's a skill, it's going to go on the stack. You can't, like, preemptively hush it.
So you can play Ice Herd, get 2 damage out of it. 1 with the ping to Disciple, 1 with the ping to the Nexus. On top of that, removing a chump blocker in the Lunari Priestess.
That's 1 blocker down. Gvuardya not opting to attack him with the lifesteal units here. The value trades are just too good on the enemy side. The Vladimir being a 6/6 regen is so good. In a deck like this that can consistently level him and play him on curve, he really gets to showcase his true power. Vladimir, again, has been a champion that has been struggling for the entire lifespan of the game. And now with enough pieces and enough tools being added that this archetype can make use of, he's really starting to show his true colors So the attack does go through. Gvuardya now down to 3 HP, and even a star shaping next round only puts you up to 8. And in combination of Wild Claw and the direct damage from Vladimir himself, it's going to be pretty rough to survive, I think, this next open swing.
Yeah, it's going to be a big swing. And like you were mentioning earlier, the Three Sisters can actually be used as a pretty aggressive tool when you run into Entome and you take the chump blocker in front of an overwhelm unit. So that damage all goes straight to the Nexus. On top of that, none of his units really have Gvuardya, I'm speaking of, don't really have any health to block the 7/5 Wild Claw right now. Max health is 2, and they're going to take 1 from Tarkaz before that. So you're down to max health at 1, so that's going to be at least 6 overall damage alone. Also with Vlad, I would be very surprised to not see an open attack here.
I'm trying to just crunch some numbers. I'm wondering if there's some weird line where FreshLobster goes in for an attack. There's enough lifesteal to maybe prevent the lethal. Goes for the Entomb on the against Wild Claw's defensive target in order to force through that damage. And if Gvuardya can, in response to that, now that Entomb is out of the way, go for some kind of crazy atrocity play with 13 mana open and maybe a couple Unto Dusks to hyper boost this Diana. It'd be 2 mana burst speed, give her 4 attack, draw a card.
Yeah. Yeah, he could have been holding on to those for a while. So we see Braum being used to pull a lifesteal unit all the way to the right. So that strike will happen later, ideally after the Nexus reaches 0, was the initial thought here. Does change his mind a bit here. Going in, doesn't want Tarkaz to die to Vlad's ability. He wants to order the stack. So we have 2 skills going on stack. So the order of the attack really, really matters here.
Yeah, the Tarkaz will go down. He slays himself with his own ability.
So we have Vlad's ability coming in first. So that will trigger. But again, now Vlad only works to the right of Vlad now.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll ping the things to the right. And then like Scarzig has just said, he will also get pinged. Tarkaz ping will come through and kill his own. So anything can block Tarkaz freely unless it gains some health at some point.
Yeah. Gvuardya's safety blocking here against Take Heart. Or rather Troll Chant. To give it a little bit of extra HP to survive. Something like Troll Chant or Transfusion. Or actually, yeah, Braum is still in play. So Braum's Take Heart could also be a possibility here. So absolutely. I like that Gvuardya is also accounting for that in the calculations.
So we do see a star shaping.
That's still lethal presented. Big shout out to the Oracle's Eye. Oh my god, this... If we had to do this math every game, like, these... I think that's lethal. Like, I can't even tell you. Back when I used to play Duelist, big shout out to Duelist, rip Duelist. Man, I've missed so many lethals having to crunch the numbers myself. So let's see. A Moonlight Affliction also coming off the top from Gvuardya. This is going to silence Vladimir so he doesn't regen, but also gets rid of the Overwhelm here. Because the attack still goes on the stack, which is great. The effect of Vladimir goes on the stack, but getting rid of the regeneration this turn is going to be pretty big. Gives you a better chance.
He's gaining health from this attack. If this goes through like this, he's gaining health, and his board doesn't even look all that bad. So we do see the Three Sisters coming in. Oh, nope. Looks like we don't.
Oh, he roped it! I wonder what he was going for there. Oh, no. What was he going for? Maybe like an Entomb against the lifesteal, I think.
It could have been that. I thought he was hovering over Fury of the North. We haven't talked about that. I mean, that card is so flexible, but we do have a glitch in the middle of the screen now. This is exciting.
Oh no, yeah, he like went for the Three Sisters creation right as it roped, and the game wasn't sure if it was going to give him the card or if it was going to say no, it didn't count. Is that a phantom Three Sisters on the left side?
Yeah, is Entomb in his hand or is Three Sisters in his hand and Entomb is glitched out? See, this is a very exciting moment here. I am not sure exactly what's going on.
I think they just I think it just roped it.
Oh.
The Immortal Fire. The win condition has finally happened. The Star Shaping got a big elusive unit, and now combined with the Silver Sister.
Yeah.
13 damage being threatened against the Nexus. There's a weird line of double Pale Cascade. There is also potential for Atrocity now to be a big finisher. The fact that the Three Sisters is still in hand, however, means you do get to keep your Flash Freeze to sidestep that. Unto Dusk now on Diana to draw a card. Look at all that attack power. This is being censored right now by the Entomb. It's too gruesome, chat. We can't watch this. He's too powerful. So now Vladimir going down. So this is going to cut off that direct Nexus damage.
Now he's debating attacking with the 4-1 with lifesteal as well.
I think I would. I think I actually would attack there. There's no unit with regeneration to tank it. There's no Scargrounds in play, so you aren't getting punished for the chump block. Just a little bit more healing now.
Chumps, you get your healing.
It's a 4-1, so if FreshLobster plays another Tarkaz or something, it's going to be pretty rough for you in general.
Yeah, there's no Death Lotus in this list, so you don't have to worry about the 1 damage coming from only in combat units either.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, FreshLobster has to block this. So it looks like the Three Sisters is still alive. Probably once he does this and picks their choice, it'll maybe... Oh, no!
Oh, no, it's glitched.
Oh, no! Oh, no!
That's so bad.
The Entomb was created by the first Three Sisters last game, but it got sent into oblivion. Look, you can see on the stack there, it says created this card. He got it! He got it! He hacked the Matrix and he got the Entomb!
This is too much.
Oh my god!
You could see the emotion on his face when he was so upset that he couldn't click that Entomb, and thankfully we don't have to go down through a glitch. He gets the choice that he wants, he gets to pick
Riot, the Entomb. Please!
Oh my gosh.
Quick thinking there for FreshLobster.
The recast.
He's been saving all of his APM for this moment.
Oh my gosh.
FreshLobster known for his very methodical play. And now kicks it into hyperdrive in order to overcome that. We still have the Phantom Entomb in the middle of the board, however, but this is something that we'll just have to take. It is a new landmark that has been erected in the middle of the battlefield in order to commemorate this moment.
I mean, this moment is absolutely insane. That was a wild ride of emotions right there. I could not believe it. Now, that's a glitch we're used to, seeing Braum overlap with his Poro friend after getting pinged by the Bloodletter. I'm much more familiar with this one. This floating Entomb is not my friend.
So yeah, without the Scargrounds in play though, that's a lot less. That's a bit more of a forgivable interaction. But now, by getting rid of that massive amount of damage that was coming through, FreshLobster is now no longer under threat of Atrocity and is presenting a lethal swing here. There's 2 Wild Claws in play, so that's 17 overwhelm damage.
Yeah, this is a massive swing. No ability going on the stack, so the Silver Sister can block and at least stop some damage here.
Ooh.
Rethinking it.
It's not enough, right? You can go for a swing here. It's not a guaranteed lethal thanks to like another star shaping. Only 1 has been cast so far. And FreshLobster, we saw in the previous set where he was running that mono Aurelian Sol list, right? Where sure, there's maybe lethal here, but I'm just going to wait for it to be a full guarantee. You have to pull the trigger here, though, because the Entomb is only temporary.
Yeah, that unit's coming back next turn with the attack token, with 9 attack, and it's elusive.
So Spell Thief, oh, Spell Thief. This is going to get, when we look at the spells that have been cast so far on FreshLobster's side, not a lot. Three Sisters, Avalanche, and I think that's it. So you can go Spell Thief into Three Sisters, Entomb. Yeah, so a counter Entomb coming through to stop a little bit of this damage. And Gvuardya lives at 3 HP. Spell Thief, a one of in this list. It was run a lot in these mono invoke builds, especially the Zoe variants. And I like that Gvuardya is looking into the past to unearth some ancient technology to help out here. And the Fangs, very strong pick there. I think that Crescent Strike from a position like this is, of course, massively undervalued now. Devalued now, I should say. Because the open attacks from FreshLobster are guaranteed. You want something a bit more punchy, something like maybe an Equinox to stop the overwhelm and just try to get chump blockers. But the Phoenix is risen and it's now back. Returns at 13 attack because it's summon effect, ability. Right? Wow. Oh no! Fading Memories onto the other Immortal Fire! Oh my goodness. Oh, the Shen emotes. I think he knows. FreshLobster's like, okay, you can't stop 2. It's open deck list. I'm just going to say GG's now. Yeah.